Hello and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host, Bryan. We're going to continue on with this week's theme of then versus now, exploring two songs from a band or an artist and seeing how they've grown, evolved, or refined their skills between the songs. Yesterday we checked out some Ulver from quite early in their career, pretty much some straightforward black metal. Today, however, we're going to be checking something out off of their 2024 album, Liminal Animals, which honestly is just very fun to say. We're going to be looking at the track Ghost Entry. Let's dive in, see what Ulver is bringing to the table today. Well, very distinctly not black metal right from the start. Very 80s with not just its chord progression and melody, but also the synth tones and the general production of this. Very groovy though. I like that bass tone. More tambourine. Oh, it's kind of, you get a little bit of it. Moving objects, the music they make. Ooh. The days are numbered, and so are words. We repeat the same old words and listen back to my voice. A distant ghost, moving objects, the music they make. Wait, he said objects. The emphasis on the second syllable just made my day for some reason. The music they make. Really interesting, almost industrial. Yeah, those metallic hits on the sides. The ethereal reverberant vocals. Almost coming in like ghosts. Yeah, dude, that's a fun track. Is there a lot to dive into on it? No, I don't think so. I mean, the beat, straightforward, very four on the floor feeling. The chord progression is consistent from start to finish. I mean, the song's barely 3 minutes long, so there's really not a lot of room to do a lot of changing on it. Vocal melodies are expected, comfortable, and safe. It's a very straightforward, very singular focused track, and I think the shorter runtime works really well for that. What I do find interesting though is the things that I don't expect within that framework. We do have the straightforward drums, straightforward bass, but then we have these other percussive sounds We have the tambourine, which I don't usually associate with synth-based music, so that's kind of cool. In fact, even just having a drum kit, which is a bit ambiguous between whether it is acoustic or electric, is kind of nice. They could have easily gone into the direction of the very iconic 80s, electronic drum sounds, that do-doom, do-doom, do-doom kind of thing, and they didn't. It feels like a tasteful way of bringing percussion into this very electric song, and I don't know. It could be acoustic with a little bit of production tricks. It could be an electric drum kit. It could just be a drum pad completely run off of samples too. I don't know, and that's kind of what I think is clever about it. And given the synth tones, given the vocals drenched in reverb, given some of the more electronic ornamental ideas, we could have gone with an electronic drum kit and really hammered home that 80s sound, and we didn't. I appreciate that. But then, like I said, we also have tambourine in here. Given how many electronic elements are in here, I wouldn't normally expect that. That's kind of cool. Then we also have these industrial sheet metal sounds off on the sides. That's kind of neat too. Does that fit more with the electronic side of things? Personally, I think so. But it also brings an acoustic element to it too. I mean, in a lot of industrial sounds styles, that's legit sheet metal being used there. So is that a sample? Is it digitized? Is it modified in production? Are there effects on it? Yeah, probably. I think so. It's a bit cleaner than I would expect, and it's shortened down too. But it still carries an acoustic quality to it. And it's another acoustic style instrument that kind of I just wouldn't expect within a song with the timbres that are at focus here. Even the bass, which I think I've in my mind kind of thought about as a bass guitar, could just be a bassy synth. I don't know that there's anything in particular regarding the timbre of it that reminds me of, or I should say forces me to think of, a bass guitar. It does have a nice rounded tone. It kind of could be portrayed as finger-picked bass guitar, but it doesn't have to be. And it's been modified just enough that it doesn't necessarily completely sound like an electric bass anymore. So it's another one of those ambiguous elements. And so this song, alongside the synthesizers and the ornamental stuff, kind of comes across as this halfway point between an electronic track and a more acoustically played one. At least from a purely sonic perspective, I don't know what this band looks like if I were to go see them live. Is it one person pushing the spacebar on a keyboard and then dancing behind a DJ set? Or is it a full band? I honestly don't know. That's how ambiguous a lot of these sounds are. And I think that's pretty cool because usually I have a pretty clear idea of what a band's going to look like. Unless it's like purposefully deceptive, where it sounds like an electronic song, but they play it on like guitars and basses and drums or something like that. Like Battles. Battles does that, where if I just listen to them, I think the first time I did listen to them, oh no, I had a music video then, didn't I? Yeah. Without the music video, though, I would have guessed it was a one-man project doing everything digitally. So there's always that. But I do appreciate that this feels like it could be a full band, or also couldn't it be? Or wouldn't it be, I suppose. That's kind of neat. Lots of interesting timbres in here. And the final thing I think I have to bring up then is just how the vocals work into all of this. I generally like them. There's a warmth and physicality to them, which is interesting because it's frequently paired with a lot of reverb, which creates an ethereal, ghost, misty kind of thing going on, which kind of removes that physicality. But he has a nice resonant tone, lots of width, and again, physicality. It's a grounded vocal style. And then it's paired with this reverb, especially towards the end of the track, as it became a background vocal, sort of I don't think it was ad-libbing. I think it was just repeating a single phrase over and over, and it just kind of fades in slowly. It keeps some of its transparency, and then it fades out. And just a really cool way of bringing this very synthy style to it while still being, legit sung part. And it works really well, once again, sort of walking this fine line between an electronic and acoustic way. And the whole song comes together through this perspective of, being, again, it feels very 80s to me, but it also feels modern and it feels a little eclectic. This isn't normally what I would think a pop track to sound like, despite the composition 100% being an electronic pop song. So I really appreciate it from that perspective. And, the elephant in the room. This is a comparing week, looking at two tracks and how they're similar and how they're different. And, we've checked out 3 bands so far, and they're all quite distinct, quite similar. You can feel the evolution of the band, how they were doing this and now they've refined it, or they've used that as a foundation or a jumping off board to improve their skills. And you can still hear the old stuff in there, but they're obviously a different or a better band today. I think this is the only one we've heard so far where this could very easily be 2 distinct artists. And I wonder how many of the band members who were in here for the Notzin's Madrigal album are still in the band today for this Liminal Animals album, which is a good album title. I mean, is this the same group of people who have just pushed into a very different direction of music making? Or is this a Ship of Theseus element where over the years they've lost and replaced members until we have a completely different band here under the name Ulver, and they collectively just, why are we still playing black metal? And over the years just kind of drifted away from that. I'm kind of curious about that whole process here. I think either way is interesting, but I'd be kind of have my fingers crossed it's the same band and they're just like, why are we still playing black metal? I want to play synth pop. And they're like, dude, you and me both. We've been doing this for years. Could you imagine? That'd be so funny. Anyways, yeah, there's not much to compare here, and the contrast part is very clear. It's really interesting to see a band diverge so far from what they played, years ago. Let me hit some lyrics on this one. Cryptic, I think, is the word best described, or the word that best describes these lyrics. There's not a lot to it. We have the opening verse. Wolves wrote this, recorded this, and today is Monday, June 21st. We then have the chorus. The days are numbered, and so are words. We repeat the same old words. Listen back to my voice, a distant ghost, moving objects, the music they make. We have a little instrumental break. We repeat the chorus again, and then repeat the phrase, the music they make, a couple of times to wrap the song up. That's it. We have 6 whole lines here. The days are numbered, and so are words. There's only so many things we can say and only so much time we have to say them. But then it also says we repeat the same old words. So everything that could be said has already been said. And we're just swimming in cycles. Our conversations are not new. It says, listen back to my voice, a distant ghost. I like the idea of the ghost, given the slightly heavier feeling in the music. And also the vocals drenched in reverb. I even mentioned that they're kind of ghosty or ethereal or misty in a lot of places here. He says, listen to my voice, moving objects, the music they make. His voice is a distant ghost, something that came from before and is saying the same things that we're saying today because words are limited and we're repeating them. Moving objects, the music they make. I mean, is that just talking about instruments in general? sound waves, maybe even. I don't know if we'd call them objects, but it is vibration of matter. Moving objects could also be, like I mentioned, instruments, guitars, pianos, dulcimers, vocal cords, even something like an aerophone. You don't really move the instrument too much, or you move the object, but you do move valves and the music they make. It could also just be people. People are moving objects. If we're talking about time already with days being numbered, we're already looking at time as a dimension, something to be passed through. Moving objects could just be people moving through time. And the music that the people make is the same music the people have always made. The stories are the same stories. See, I don't know, dude. It's kind of cryptic. I'm curious what they intended to say. Or maybe the cryptic nature is the intention, that it's supposed to mean something different to different people. I have no idea, though. I've given my hypothesis, though. What's yours? These are my thoughts on Ulver's Ghost entry. What do you think of this track? What do you think of this track compared to yesterday's Ulver track? If you've never heard the two sides of this band, what did you think? Were your expectations blown away? I already knew coming in. I think I had mentioned it in yesterday's video, but I've heard some of their lighter, poppier stuff. I knew we were going to get something like this. I didn't know it was going to be this 80s synth pop stuff, though. This is a little different than I expected, too. But I knew we were going to get something quite a bit lighter. But I was shocked when I heard some of their modern stuff the first time as well. I think it was even after we checked out one of their black metal tracks, and someone in the comments was like, dude, you got to check out their later stuff, their newer stuff. Anyways, let's wrap this up. Put all of your thoughts, comments, whatever you want to add into the comment section below. Above that, in the description box, there's a link to Linktree. It takes you here. You can find links to my music, ways to support the channel, a link to the Discord server, and so much more. Above that, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. I greatly appreciate all three of those. That wraps it up for today. I'll be back tomorrow, though, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 p.m. UTC as usual. Until next time, remember to be critical, not cynical, of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening, whenever you choose to watch my videos.